Hello, the title of our talk is Male Mating Preference for Female Size Depends on their Alternative Reproductive Tactic in a Swordtail Fish. As you probably already know, sexual selection is an important component of natural selection, and there are two types of sexual selection: intrasexual selection, which involves competition among individuals of the same sex, and intersexual selection, which involves mate choice. In this example, this female bird chooses her mates based on the plumage coloration and song of the males, and this seems to have indirect benefits on the fitness of this female. And although it is generally assumed that female mating preferences are more important than male mating preferences, this does not mean that male mating preferences do not exist or that they may not be important. And this is because males may also increase their fitness by being selective. For example, in viviparous fish of the family Poeciliidae, larger females are usually more fecund. Therefore, we expect males to prefer larger females as mates, which may result in more offspring being produced and hence higher fitness for those males choosing large females. In this example, I am using individuals of the high-back pygmy swordtail Xiphophorus multilineatus. And so I am going to switch gears now to explain why we chose this species for this study. In Xiphophorus multilineatus, mating behaviors are tightly correlated with male size. The genetic basis of these tactics have to do with variation in the copy number of the melanocortin 4 receptor gene. The most important thing regarding this mechanism is that small males only sire small sons, while large males only sire large sons. In other words, males breed true. These males here mature earlier, are smaller, and have a narrower body shape, and besides courting, they also use sneak chase behavior. That is, they chase the female until they transfer sperm, so I will refer to them as sneakers. In contrast, these males that mature later are larger and have a deeper body, and they only court females to mate, so I will refer to them as courters. On average, females prefer to mate with courter males. However, this female preference is stronger in large females and weaker in small females. And so the objectives of our study were to analyze the mating preference of male sorted fish, Xiphophorus multilineatus, for females of different sizes, and to identify whether this preference was influenced by the male's alternative reproductive tactic. Using a typical binary test, we estimated the mate preference of 30 males, that is 13 sneakers and 17 courters, using as a stimuli a total of 20 live pairs of females consisting of a small and a large one. We place the males in the center compartment of a tank and the females in the opposite side compartments. We measure the total association time each male spent in the zone next to each female. And for further analysis, we calculated the strength of preference for large females, which we define as the time spent next to the large female minus the time spent next to the small female. We use a general linear mix model to compare total association time between females of different size. This model also included male tactic as a fixed factor and the identity of the male as a random factor. As covariates, we included male condition, number of offspring previously produced by the females, and the size difference between the females within a pair. We started with a full model that included all two-way interactions and used a model reduction procedure based on the Aka-Ike value to remove non-significant terms. We report the minimal model. To compare the strength of preference between male tactics, we use a general linear model with male condition and size difference between the females as covariates. Here we also report the minimal model. Let's go to our results. In the y-axis of this graph, we have the total association time that males spend with either the small or the large female. And contrary to what we expected, we found that on average, males appear to prefer small females. However, this overall preference was primarily driven by sneaker males, represented here with orange error bars, which spend a lot of time with small females and little time with large females, while quarter males, represented here with blue error bars, did not seem to discriminate females by their size. When we look at the strength of preference, we found that it is different between tactics. In this graph, in the y-axis, positive values represent preference for large females. Values around 0 represent weak strength of preference, and negative values represent preference for small females. We can see that quarter males tend to prefer large females. However, their strength of preference is not considerable. In contrast, sneakers have a strong preference for small females. Finally, the relation between preference and fecundity depends on male tactic. So the time that quarter males spend associated with females increase with their fecundity, and this relationship is represented here by a blue line. But that was not the case for sneakers, which lack of relation is represented here with an orange line. Because in Xiphophorus multilineatus, females mating preference for quarter males decreases with their size, our results suggest that male mating preferences in this species might not only be based on female fecundity, but also on their probability of mating. Quarter males tend to prefer large females, and this coincides with the female preference. Hence, quarters may also be choosing more fecund females. Alternatively, because small females tend to be less selective, this may increase the chances of sneaker males to mate with them, which may explain why they have a strong mating preference for these type of females, which are not necessarily more fecund. In conclusion, the interaction between female mate preference and male alternative reproductive tactics seem to affect what mate candidate may be more likely to increase the reproductive success of a given male. In this case, even with the intrinsic advantage of choosing more fecund females, that is, large females, such interaction results in male alternative reproductive tactics having opposite mate preferences. Therefore, when evaluating male mating preferences, the interaction with female mate preference must also be considered. We would like to thank these people for their help at different stages of this study and this agency for providing financial support. Thank you for your attention.